from under my blankets, so it's quiet enough to hear me. This is Reimagining Hustle, a podcast for entrepreneurial parents creating a life where business and parenthood live peacefully in the same space. I'm your host, Roxanne Market, a mom of two, micro-business coach, and serial entrepreneur on a journey to prove that it really is possible to do what you love without sacrificing all of your precious time. Let's do this. Welcome back to Reimagining Hustle. I cannot wait for you to meet my guest today. I have Dr. Stephanie Snyder with me. Stephanie, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic today. How are you?
I'm really good. Really, I've been putting on a floor. We were chatting before, and so I feel like I'm covered in sweat, but it's like my favorite way to be.
You're fine. Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Stephanie, will you just dive right in? Tell us about what it is you do and your journey to get there.
Absolutely. So as she said, I am Dr. Stephanie Snyder. I am not that kind of doctor. I'm not going to save somebody's life medically, but I do have my PhD in higher education. And so to sum it up quickly for people, I'm really great at teaching. I did a lot of formal education and now have my own business. So I am a Navy wife. My husband and I are celebrating 15 years this year. And we have 4 children. My son is 14. My daughters are 11, 6, and 3. So they keep me very busy.
Yeah.
But when I finished my PhD a few years ago, 2 weeks before baby number 4 was born, I had all my friends saying, okay, well, now you're done with your PhD. What are you going to do next? And I wanted to slap all of them and be like, I'm pregnant and I'm going to have a newborn. That's the next thing.
That's enough.
But God knew that wasn't going to be enough for me. And so I remember waking in the middle of the night when she was about 3 weeks old, not waking because of her, like waking for some other reason. And God gifted me the vision, you can call it the divine universe, to start my own business. And so I tried to ignore it for like a solid month, like we tend to do.
Yes.
And it just kept showing up, like kept knocking on my door. And so my first brand was the Overjoyed Mom. And I grew that brand to 6 figures in about 18 months. And that was me being a mom coach, helping moms basically get their shit together. I hope I can say that.
You're totally good. Yeah. You can swear. You're fine.
Cool. So helping moms just kind of reclaim themselves in motherhood. And then because I was doing so well, people wanted to know how I was running my business around being a mom. And so I turned that into business coaching in a sense. But then this time last year, I felt called to expand even further. And so the Opulent Life was born. And this is more about your spiritual alignment, just getting into the right energy to create the life and business that you desire easily. And so it's not necessarily business and marketing, although I do talk about that, but I talk about it from a space of, what do you like to do? What brings you joy? And when you show up in that space, then it becomes very easy to know what to do. I hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I'm really inspired by this story because I feel like so many of us as entrepreneurs, we do feel that call, right? Wherever that call comes from. And I love that you're so open that like God gave you that call, right? That you listen to that, yeah. But we are so hesitant. It's like, really? Like, yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Right. Are you really, really sure? Like, and God and I have a very great relationship. And there are times where I've actually said, hey, listen, you know how stubborn I am. So if you want me to do this thing, you're literally going to have to hit me with a Mack truck.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he has kind of taken that literal.
I feel like there's some story there.
There is a story. So, my youngest was born in August, and in November, I was still like full on in the hustle and grind, right? Like I was doing all the things to grow my business because I was just checking off a box, right? And then in November, I was in an ATV accident.
Oh my word.
And I shattered my kneecap. And very quickly, I learned that there's not a whole lot that matters so much.
Mm-hmm.
My head wasn't injured. Nobody was like devastatedly hurt. Yes, it took a long time for me to go to through PT, and the doctors told me that I would never actually walk normal again. Well, I'm happy to report 15 months later, post injury, I ran my first full marathon, and I'm currently training for a triathlon.
Yes.
So,
Stephanie, you and I are kindred
yeah.
spirits, right? If somebody tell you, I feel like you and I are kindred spirits right here. This is awesome.
So part of that process, though, was it didn't matter who did the thing or how it was done, as long as it was done, right? And I realized very quickly that, part of my journey was surrender and giving up control. And I started this journey way back about 7 or 8 years ago when I was a laundry Nazi, and realized that I hated looking at myself in the mirror because I was so obsessed with things being perfect and looking Pinterest perfect, and that I had stopped even communicating with myself. And so that was the start of the process. To give you a little backstory there, because I learned these things, lessons, right? There's like these big life moments that change, and they don't seem super big, but the real trigger at the very beginning was, we had just come back from Belize in Italy for 3 years. And my husband was immediately thrown into deployment cycles. So I went from full-time husband to, I saw my husband 70 days out of the first calendar year that we were back stateside.
Yeah.
And so I just busied myself because I didn't know how to deal with that. I had to be the strong mom, right? For my 2 little kids that we had. And so I just busied myself. I busied myself with laundry and with my PhD program and teaching classes and trying to grow a network marketing business. And I just ignored myself. And because I was ignoring myself, I started to hate myself. And I'll never forget, one night I had reprimanded my son, probably for just being a boy. And I don't mean like I beat my son, like I yelled at him.
Right.
And I was sending him to bed, and he climbed up onto his bed and he said to me, "I should just disappear. Nobody loves me."
Oh.
And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
But he said the words that I was feeling. And it was in that moment that I realized I had to do this for my kids. I had to change my energy and the way that I felt about myself for my children, because my energy was impacting them. Now, I had never said those words out loud. I thought I was doing this great job of, keeping up the appearances, right?
Oh, yes.
But children are incredibly susceptible to their mother's energy. And they will pick up on what they see and what they feel, not what they hear. And so my kids became my reason. And that's been my platform for a very long time, is your kids can be your excuse that you don't grow a business and that you don't do self-care, or they can be your reason for doing all of those things because they're watching you and you're their role model.
I feel like you just dropped a mic right there for us, because it's so true. Like, how many moms need to know that? Like, louder for the people in the back, please. So Stephanie, what does success look like to you then? As you've gone through all of these changes and all of these lessons, how do you define success?
So it changes, sometimes daily. But it changes because I know that when I feel successful, I bring more success to me. And when I was learning that lesson, I had to make success so easy that I couldn't not hit it. It was a terrible double negative, but you know what I meant. I needed it for the emphasis. Yeah. And so at the beginning, my success it wasn't based on something external, right? Because you can't control a whole lot externally, right? Really none of
really
it,
nothing.
if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And so I had to focus on success that I could control. And so some days it was simply making my bed. Other days it was, and all the children are alive.
Yes.
Right? Like,
that's a big deal.
We've all been fed, right? we've all been fed. We didn't go to the ER, right? Like everybody is alive and healthy. And when I started to kind of snowball that success, then I got to expand it and go, okay, well, now how do I feel successful in my business? Well, I had a lot of fun that day, right? Maybe I signed up a client, maybe I didn't, but because I was basing my success on something that I could control, success just snowballed and it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
What a great definition of success too. I feel like as a military, I didn't realize you were a military spouse. I also am a military spouse. So that's extra fun.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
we will definitely bond over that after the recording is done. I guarantee you. So sorry, listeners, you don't get to hear that. But I feel like as a military spouse, especially, you have no idea what the day might hold, right? No idea. And so to define success just as a feeling rather than a goal to hit or something like that is such a great way to define it. That's one I actually haven't heard before. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's the easiest way, because as much as, and I actually was reflecting on this morning, there's a lot of people who say, well, only work when you feel like it, right? Because it's your business and you want to feel good when you're working your business. But the truth is you get to decide how you feel throughout the day. And so you can decide and you can sit there and be pissed off, right? Like I sat in pissed off feelings last night because my husband made some terrible look about the outfit that I had on. And I felt fabulous. And he was like, you look like you have no clothes on. And I was like, well, I work really hard for this body. I'm going to flaunt it. And he was like, I think that's a bra and not a shirt. And I sat in those pissed off feelings for about 20 minutes, maybe even half hour, because I just was so pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But we were meeting up with some friends. And so in the car, had it just been him and I, would have been like, screw you, I'm going to bed. Right? But we were meeting up with some friends, and in the car, I did some breathing exercises and I regrounded myself and I took my power back because I wanted to feel great. Even though he poo-pooed that outfit and the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's not that I don't pick out outfits quickly. Right. It's that my husband poo-poos them regularly. Yes. But it was a choice to feel pissed off. And it's a choice to feel inspired and excited about your business. And it's a choice to feel like you don't really want to do it, right? If you are focused on an income goal and you base it solely on, how much work you do that day is based off of how you feel in the morning, you're not going to reach that goal.
No. Nope.
Because human nature will come in and you'll be like, oh, well, it's raining today. I think I'm just going to Netflix and binge all day. Right. Yeah. But if you're excited about the work that you do, then you can lay there. And this is an exercise I do every morning. I refuse to get out of bed until there's something that I'm excited about that day.
Oh, that's cool.
So I lay there and I'll go, okay, what do I have going on today? And I'll go through the list and I'll be like, oh, well, I don't really want to do that. And I don't really want to do that. But I'm really excited about whatever it is, right? Like today, Fridays are my pleasure days. I don't schedule any coaching calls. And so today I was really excited I'm training for a triathlon. So I was really excited to go for my long bike ride, followed by a run. It's called a brick workout. I don't suggest it. It's not for the faint of heart.
Only if you're training for triathlon.
Ass, right? Yeah. Right. It kicks your ass. But last week when I did it, I ran a sub 8-minute mile following my bike ride. And so today I was like, oh, I'm going to do my bike ride and I'm going to go for even a faster pace post mile. Right. Now I was a runner growing up. And so sub 8 is like stupid slow compared to what I used to run, but post knee surgery
would be thrilled with a sub 8 minute. I would be thrilled with a sub 10-minute mile.
Right. So I do my 20-mile bike ride. I change my shoes. I'm getting ready to run and I'm looking at my watch, which is telling me my pace.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, 8 minutes. Oh, I'm going to push it. Because when you get off a bike and you go into running mode, you can't really feel your legs.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so your brain's not registering the pain of your legs because you can't really feel them. So I was like, well, let's just push it. I ran a 7:35-minute mile this morning.
Dang, look at you go.
And I was like, holy crap, I did it. Sub 8, you can kiss my ass, right?
Yeah.
Like psyched. But that's how I start my day. What am I excited about that day?
Mm-hmm.
Because that sets the tone for the day.
Yeah. What a great practice. I'm going to have to start trying that one. That's a really fun idea.
Yes. Well, if it's not fun, why would you do it? Why wouldn't you?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, what a
It
great
has to be fun.
Yes.
Has
yes.
to be fun.
I'm here for
Thus
it.
the Overjoyed mom as the first brand, right?
See? I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. Oh, Stephanie, this is so fun. Okay, can we shift a little bit and talk about parenting through all, like everything else?
Yes.
Because that adds like a whole new layer to
whole
everything.
Another layer. Yeah.
So I want to know how has being a parent during this journey of entrepreneurship and getting your PhD and being a military spouse and all of this, like all of those things, that's a lot. And then you throw being a parent on top of it. How has this changed you as an individual?
I mean, every day it changes me, but the thing is, I allow my children to teach me.
Say more about that. Tell us more.
So I'm one of those parents where, like, if my kid literally smacks me in the face with total bluntness, I'll receive it and go, oh shit, right? Like, I won't actually say that to my kids, but like, prime example, one afternoon, this is probably about 5 years ago, my oldest daughter was on the other side of my computer. I had a really big desk a couple years ago when I was working on my PhD. She was on the other side and I was checking my email again for the 40th time that day.
Yeah.
And she said, Mom, why are you always on your computer? And I went, oh shit.
Yep.
And so I realized I wasn't on my computer for any particular reason, but my kids saw me on my computer all the time. And so I then had to go, okay, I'm not working when my children are home. And for the most part, I don't work the second they get home from school, right?
Yeah.
Like after school activities usually take up my entire afternoon and evening that I don't do any work. I do all my content stuff beforehand. I might be on my phone for about 5 minutes to post something in the evening if I want to, or to take their pictures, right? Because I'm always taking pictures of them.
Oh, yeah. You got to document everything.
I'm not, right. I'm not working on my phone. And so that was a big one. So I let them teach me, right? And my 3-year-old, you saw her come up here before we started recording.
So sweet. Yep.
She is my greatest teacher for the feminine. I don't know if you do a lot of work with the feminine and the masculine energies, but she is raging feminine in her entirety, right? Like she feels all the feels and she lets you know how she's feeling those feels. But what's incredible is like yesterday she was eating cucumbers and I was sitting at the kitchen table watching her eat these cucumbers and she goes, this feels so yummy. I was like, oh my God. Like she just soaks up every experience into her body. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to be more like my 3-year-old.
Yes. Yes. What a great observation too, to feel that. I feel like we could all use a little bit more childlike energy and enthusiasm in our life, but even over cucumbers, how cute too.
I was just like, oh, this feels so good. And I was like, it feels good. Why doesn't it taste good?
Yeah.
She's like, it feels so good. And instantly I was like, well, my body loves greens too. So I can understand why she's saying it feels good.
Yeah.
Right. So it's incredible to let them teach you even in their bluntness.
Yeah. Do you ever experience guilt with these wonderful babies of yours?
So I used to have a lot of mom guilt. Used to, like, it would plague me and I would feel terrible about sitting on the couch and watching TV, something that I wanted to watch because I felt like I should be doing something for my kids.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is I am present with my children a lot. That I don't feel guilty days like today where I did my triathlon training and then I went golfing with some girlfriends. And my kids got in the car after school and they were like, hey, mom, did you do this? Hey, mom, did you do that? Hey, mom, did you go grocery shopping? And I was like, no, I did nothing for you guys today, but I picked you up from school and we're going to hang out this evening and it's going to be great. And I could feel really guilty that I didn't do their list of things, but they didn't have to get done today. I'm not Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to show up and do it the second they ask, because they sure as heck don't do it the second I ask them.
Very accurate.
Right. But part of this is about how do we communicate with our kids, right? Like, I want my children to know that they're loved and supported regardless.
Yeah.
And so part of this entrepreneurial process has taught me what their love languages are. Because I did some work on what my love language was, because the truth is, if you don't feel loved and appreciated, it may be because someone who loves you doesn't know how you receive love.
Right. Such an important, like, if you have not, Gary Chapman does the 5 love languages. If you've not looked that up, look it up. And he does one for kids too, which is really interesting.
He does do one for kids. Yeah. He does one for military as well, for the deployments. I think he's got another book for that too. Yeah. So, but that's really important, because if you're not feeling loved, it may just be because someone doesn't know how you communicate love. My husband has a very different love language than I do, right? Like mine is touch and quality time and like acts of services. It varies. Like I go through all 5 of them periodically. But his is like, you know, quality time. And quality time to him is sitting on the couch watching TV. To me, that's like, no. Like, I need to interact
quality time with you, not with the television.
Yes, not with the television, but that's quality time for him.
Yeah.
And then each of my kids have their own love language. And that's interesting to navigate, right?
Yes.
Because you're like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yep.
But what it's done is it's allowed me to teach them how to show up differently in the world, right? Because education is teaching them something very different than the spiritual side that I'm trying to teach them. And it's navigating that without being like, no, you're wrong and that's wrong, right? It's, oh, well, that's just a different way to look at this.
What a great perspective too. Stephanie, you mentioned a little bit ago that when you first started your businesses, you were kind of in hustle mode. And things shifted for you. And so I want to ask you a question about the name of this podcast, which is Reimagining Hustle. And I'll give you a little background to this question. So when I started my entrepreneur journey, I was not a parent and I loved hustle culture. I lived it. I breathed it. I felt it at my core. It was that go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. You stop, business stop. So you just keep going, you know? And then I had my first child and my whole world stopped. And I went,
it's incredible how they do that. Isn't it?
Just like instantaneously. And so I've been on this quest to reimagine what hustle looks like since then. So I would love to know, how do you reimagine hustle?
All right. So for me, when I first started Overjoyed Moms, the people I looked up to and my mentor, they had no children. And so they could dedicate 40, 60, 80 hours a week to growing their business because they didn't have any other kids. Like, they didn't have children tugging on them. And so when I actually first started, I was convinced that I was never going to be successful in my business because I didn't have that many hours a week. And then my mentor challenged me on that, because working on my PhD and my graduate work, I could only do that work when my kids were napping.
Yeah.
And so when I finished my PhD, I still had babies napping. Some of them were in school and some of them were babies napping.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you're really efficient with your time. Why don't you share some tips with us? And we were on a group call and I started rattling some stuff off and I started to watch all these women take notes down. And she said, see, that's your superpower. She said, so how many hours do you want to work? And I was like, oh, I see what we're doing here. Okay. So this is one of those questions that I usually ask my clients right out of the gate. How many hours do you want to work? And without fail, they'll say, oh, well, 30 to 40. No. Not how many hours do you think you need to work?
Or are
How
you
many hours do
supposed
you,
to?
right, right. How many hours do you want to work? And then they go, oh, well, I really only want to work like 15 to 20. Okay, then start there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start working 15 to 20 hours after you're making six figures, because then that's going to feel really unproductive to you and it's going to be a difficult habit to break. You start it now as your business is. And so for me, I looked at my schedule and I said, okay, I have 20 hours of nap time,
Mm-hmm.
right? When my two of the babies were napping, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to work the weekends. The kids are all home. I get distracted. They need something when I'm in the middle of something, and it's not
Always.
worth it.
Same.
And so I don't even do it on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But Monday through Friday, I had 20 hours of nap time, right? I knew that during that time, I needed to clean the house. I had to go grocery shopping every other week, whatever it was, right? And do laundry and keep up on those other things. So based off of that schedule, I said, okay, well, I need 2 hours to clean the house. I need to take this time out for grocery shopping or other kinds of errands. And quite frankly, that leaves me with 16 hours. Do I want to work all 16 hours? No.
Yeah.
I want to do something for me during at least one of those nap times so that I can recharge my own battery and I'm not working ad nauseum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately I got it down to about 12 hours of working time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, in these 12 hours, what are the things that I have to do to grow my business?
Mm-hmm.
And when you boil it all down, there are really only a couple things you have to do to grow your business. One, get visible on social media or whatever platform it is, right? Doesn't matter where
Mm-hmm.
you are. Somebody needs to see who you are and what you're doing. Number one. Number two, you have to have space for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So from that 12 hours, 5 of it I set aside for marketing. So that included creating content, that included, my podcast, my written post. For a little while, I was doing discovery calls and I considered that my marketing as well.
Yeah.
So that left me with 7 hours that I could dedicate to working with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, well, these are the times I have available to work with my clients. And guess what happens? When you only have those times to work with your clients show up at those times
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they want to work with you. And so that was the model that I used to grow my business, because when I sat down and it was my hour to market on that Monday, that's all I was working on.
Mm.
I wasn't Facebook scrolling. I wasn't sitting here thinking about, oh, well, what kind of font do I want? And like, I made it so simple that I couldn't have an excuse to not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the days that I was really pressed, I would lock myself in the bathroom for 5 minutes and create some kind of content.
Yes. Yes, the truth right there.
Right? But what I did in that schedule was on Fridays were my day where I had no client calls. I didn't have any business related things to do, but Friday morning was my catch up day. So had there been an incident and the kids, I had to reschedule something or whatever, Friday morning nap time was my catch up time.
Mm-hmm.
Friday afternoon nap time was just for me. I got to do whatever I wanted, of course, in the house, right? Unless I hired a babysitter.
Right. Right.
But whatever it was that I wanted, I got to do guilt-free Friday afternoon because I had done all the other things already.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you've just blown my mind and I need to restructure my entire life right now. And I think it's going to be worth it.
Yes.
I think it's going to be worth it.
Well, and the thing is, right, if you start off with that kind of schedule saying, okay, I'm only working 20 hours a week, then you can actually charge the money that you want to charge because you're only working 20 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Which is what so many people are like. I'll never forget. I had this one client. She was growing a network marketing company. And I said, okay, how many hours a day are you working?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, 12 to 13.
Per day?
And I said, what? And she said, yeah, I'm on my phone a lot. I've got a team and I'm constantly answering questions and I'm checking in on them. And I said, well, how much are you making? And she was making less than $1,000 a month. And so I did simple math for her.
Yep.
And I said, you are literally making pennies an hour. Pennies an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And she went, oh,
Mm-hmm.
but aren't you supposed to hustle in the beginning, right? Like that's what I hear a lot.
Yep.
Aren't I supposed to just crush it in the beginning? No.
Mm-hmm.
No, because what happens is if you go in with that mentality where you're working 60, 80 hours a week and getting paid nothing, then your mind goes, well, I can't keep this up and hit 10K.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't enough hours in the day.
Right.
And so in the beginning of my business, when I didn't have client calls, you know what I did during that time? I improved my skills. I listened to podcasts. I, maybe worked on some graphic design. I made myself better during that time because I didn't want to do something else that was going to take away from that time later on. And some days, if I was really calling in a client, I would just sit there and think about the client I wanted to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I would spend the whole hour thinking about how excited I was to work with that client. And then guess what? That client would show up and book on that day. Surprise, surprise.
Who knew, right? Who knew? Wow.
But what we did with this client, once I showed her how much she was actually making, I said, listen, tomorrow you're only allowed to work 2 hours. And she went, well, I can't do that all in 2 hours. Oh, but you can. You can do an hour in the morning, you can do an hour in the afternoon, but that's it. You cannot literally set a timer on your phone. You can only work 1 hour in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 2 hours total, right? Whatever it is. I said the rest of the day is going to feel incredibly unproductive for you. Incredibly unproductive. I said, but you need that space in order to bring in clients because right now you don't have the space to support a client.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't have it. And so I checked in with her the next day and she was like, oh my God, the day was so unproductive. But she's like, I got to watch Hamilton with my daughter and I checked in with my team. I only worked 2 hours and we baked in the kitchen. And she had all these other things that she got to do. And then that night, she received 5 clients.
Wow.
Simply from making the space.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't working any harder, but she allowed them to come in because she had the space for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the principles that I teach. You have to have the space for the thing that you want, right? And I talked about this the other day in my Facebook group. If you want a gorgeous new pair of shoes, but your closet is chock full and there's no room for those shoes aren't coming.
No.
They're just, you're going to want to buy them. And then you're going to look in your closet and go, well, I don't know where I'd put them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to make the space for the thing, right? This is, people do this at the beginning of the year, not knowing that this is what they're actually doing. But New Year's resolutions, right? The end of the year after Christmas, how many of us purge our closets?
Oh my word. Every year.
The toys, all the things, right? We get rid of all the stuff. We just purge. But what we're doing innately is making space for the new year to come in with all the new things. Mm-hmm. And we do it habitually because that's what we saw our parents do, right? Mm-hmm. But we're actually making space for all of the new things to come in the new year by doing that kind of purging. If you do it with some more intention, then you really get the stuff that you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what we do. You have to clear the space for that thing to come in. Otherwise, it's not going to come in.
Man, Stephanie, I appreciate your wisdom. And like I said, I'm just like, you're making my mind just spin in the best way of like, okay, we're going to do some different things around these parts here. It's going to be really, really good. Oh, okay. Before we find out where we can find you online, and I feel like you've done this like the entire podcast, but I'm going to ask you very specifically, will you give us a pep talk for other parents who are also on this entrepreneur journey and just feeling like they can't even get through another day. Will you give us a pep talk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So pep talk. Okay. So here's the deal. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished in the masculine sense. If you feel great about your day, celebrate it. Sit on the couch with your kids, give them a hug, check out of social media, and just be present with your children. Because the truth of the matter is, you are growing your business for them in some aspect, right? Whether it's to spend more time with them, whether it's so they don't have to pay for college, whatever it is, you've been given this because of your children. So include them, bring them along in the journey, right? Like my kids, it's funny when people ask my kids what I do, because they don't really know.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, she just makes money helping people, right? That's cool. I want my kids
awesome.
to know that, right? And they listen to these conversations, they eavesdrop, so they pick up on it. But the truth is, you need to show up as the person that you want to be so that your children have permission to show up as they want to be.
Again, mic drops. I do not have enough microphones for you today. That is all there is to it. Stephanie, you are glorious and wonderful. And I want to be your best friend and all of the things. So tell us, where can we find you online? We need more of you. Where can we get you?
Perfect. So if you go to my website, theopulentlife.com, you can get to my Facebook, my Insta, my podcast, my Facebook group, all the things you can access there. And if you are on Facebook, you can join my brand new Facebook group called the Opulent Life Queendom. Yes, this was a middle of the night name that came to me. I use my subconscious at night, the dream state, to bring me all these kinds of juicy ideas.
Love it.
And Queendom, not a kingdom, because there's a whole bunch of amazing women in the group. But it's brand new, so it's still very intimate. And I like it that way because, shoot, we need to surround ourselves with people who want to be there, right?
So true. So true.
So the Opulent Life Queendom is a place where you can hang out.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we link everything in the show notes. Stephanie, this has been like the best way to spend my Friday afternoon. So thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Thank your kids as well I know that I see their cute little heads poking in. So tell them thank you as well. And I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I love connecting with people this way. So
that's awesome. Thanks for listening to Reimagining Hustle with Roxanne Merkett. If you like the show and want more, check out reimagininghustle.com and please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you soon.